Yeah, I think so. Yes, you could. They have a booth there. You could ask them show their this tag and you can. This is.
I'm now going to introduce the next speaker. I'm so excited to introduce him. This is one of my favorite topics, actually. He's a master at capturing high-energy moments in the world of sports. So Mark over here is an award-winning sports photographer with an impressive portfolio that includes some of the most iconic moments in recent sports history. So from split-second shots that capture intense emotion to dynamic action shots, Mark's work brings us closer to the thrill and dedication of athletes at the peak of their game. His keen eye and impeccable timing allows him to freeze the most unforgettable moments in sports. So today, Mark will be diving into the art of sports photography, sharing tips and stories about capturing the passion, movement, and spirit of athletic events. So without further ado, let's welcome Mark Blinch to the stage!
Hello, okay. Hey guys. Thanks for coming out to watch. Just so you know what I'm going to go over today in this presentation, it's going to be strictly basketball. I did a presentation yesterday on hockey, if you saw that, and I did a presentation on the Olympics this morning. So without further ado, I'll get going. I know basketball is usually pretty popular amongst everybody in the sports world. So I'll start by saying the thing I love most about NBA basketball and basketball in general, the photography is really, it's celebrated. Photography is used every day on social media from the past. What the NBA and basketball in particular is really good at doing is using older photographs to sort of dictate the culture and just the whole mood of everything. Like, how many of you go through social media every day? You see a picture of Michael Jordan literally every day. There's not any other sport that really does that this well. Same thing with Kobe. You go through your social media, you always see something about Kobe. There's just something about NBA basketball and the history of everything and the larger than life characters that always just sort of reverberate always. And it's the best sport that does this. The other leagues don't do this as well. I feel like basketball is very, very good at celebrating its past, and what better way to do that through photography. So this is an assignment I did early in my career. This is a FIBA World Basketball Championship in Istanbul, Turkey. Why I love shooting basketball so much is because of that history. And as time goes on, pictures become more meaningful, right? So if you look at, like, you know, everybody knows all of these characters in this photograph, and just look how young they all look, and they were all playing together. So this is 2010. So this is kind of like their budding, their generation of players. This is them starting, and like all of these players weren't like how we know them now. So that's just what I love about seeing, you know, all of them together just in one frame. Again, I didn't get to shoot much Kobe. I was just sort of starting my career, but I did get to shoot him a couple of times. And this is just like a regular basketball picture. It's nothing too exciting, but like I said, the characters of the NBA, they really elevate the photographs. And this is another perfect example of like you just never really know, especially when you're covering athletes like this. Of course, a few years later, Kobe and his daughter passed away in a helicopter accident. So photos like this become a lot more meaningful and special, just to remind us all of, you know, the story and the career of all these guys. So this was Kobe in Toronto at the All-Star game, 2016, I think. Still, I think one of the best All-Star games ever for many reasons, but the whole thing, he was retiring this year, so all we did was shoot him the whole game. But this picture to me is meaningful just because of what went on to happen. So again, like these pictures are, you know, they're super special because of just the historical impact of what was going on. And again, with basketball pictures, again, like two athletes standing beside each other, not necessarily the most amazing sports picture in the world, but because of the gravity of the two characters, again, this is just NBA does this so well. You know, and then you never really know, right? Like we used to shoot stuff in the locker room. They don't really let us too much in there anymore, but I mean, this is DeMar when he's still playing in Toronto, right? And like when I shot this photo, I had no idea what would go on to happen. So these is just a few introductory pictures of how I approach shooting basketball. You'll see, I'll divide it up. I'll divide it up into pre-game moments, which is my favorite thing to shoot, on-court action, and using remote cameras. And again, these are just all images that, you know, as time goes on, it's just so historical because, like, we had no idea Kyle Lowry would have moved on and the history of all of that. And then, of course, Nav, the super fan, is always in play every night. This is a remote camera. You'll see. I'll get into how all this is done. You'll see me talk a lot about pre-game moments as well. So I like to shoot a lot of stuff before the game. A lot of photographers do, but you'll see me do a lot of this sort of stuff, and you'll see I have a whole section on it. Yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about shooting NBA is just you never really know where the story's going to go with it, right? So you could just shoot this stuff and you just never really know where the story's going to go. This was actually my first NBA championship. I shot it in Cleveland. The NBA brought me along for the first time. So this is Steph Curry carrying out the trophy. He's carrying it into the locker room. Okay, first we'll start with like obvious basketball stuff, on-court stuff. When I worked for the NBA, I used something called stadium strobes. I have a picture of it somewhere in this presentation. So what stadium strobes are is they're strobes in the roof. And when we fire our camera on the floor, big flashes go off. Not a lot of people know this goes on. Like when you watch a basketball game, next time you watch any basketball game, look for flashes on the television because you'll see that's actually a photographer firing the strobes. And now that I've told you, I might ruin your viewing experience, but I swear 95 higher don't even notice it's happening, even when they're in arena. The players don't notice it, it happens so quickly. But that's how I get all these super bright and saturated colors that you see in these photos. Yeah, sorry? So the question is, how can we fill the arena with enough light if the strobes are so high? I don't know. They're just really powerful. They're like 3,200 watt second strobe packs, and they over the power. They're 3 times brighter than the arena light. That's what I know. And it's a really, really quick burst. And then when you're shooting strobes, if you think about it, you have to have a sync speed on your camera. So with the Sony A1, it's 400th of a second sync time, which is not enough to freeze action and available light, but the strobe actually becomes your shutter speed, right? because the strobe is about 1/1600th of a second, and it flashes while the shutter is open, and it's actually what's freezing the action. But I am going to talk about the Sony A9 III global shutter, which changes everything shooting strobes, but I'll get to that a little later. So yeah, shooting basketball on-court stuff. The good thing about shooting strobes, you get like beautiful illumination of the players, and the colors on the jerseys pop, but the downside is you have to wait for it to recycle. So instead of shooting like 30 frames per second, you can only shoot 1 frame per second. So you have to wait for your moment, because you can't just hammer the strobes, because it would be obnoxious, and it also just doesn't recycle that fast. You got to wait for it to recycle. So there is a drawback to that. So yeah, just classic dunk pictures. When you're shooting strobes, it's really frustrating. Sometimes like they'll go for a dunk and you'll be like, I think I hit it at the right time. And then especially if it's like a big player, I'm like, oh, I hope it's good. Like I won't look at the back of my viewfinder for like 30 seconds because I'll just pray it's there. But sometimes you're too late or you're too early and they're dunking and their arms blocking their face. Whereas if you're shooting 30 frames per second, you'd have a whole sequence, right? So this is just like classic on-court stuff. Okay, so here's a picture of the strobes in the roof. So these are the packs. And then, so those are the packs I just showed you. And then these are the flash heads in the roof. Usually, most arenas have these, though it's starting to be a bit of a dying art. A lot of people are shooting available light because cameras have gotten so good and low light. And the light has gotten a lot brighter in arenas, so. So another thing you'll see me do, you're probably wondering, it looks a little dark in the background. So another trick you could do with strobes, so there's about 6 strobe heads that light the whole basketball court. If you just turn one of them on, that means everything else falls to darkness. So you'll see I'll do a lot of work like this. So in this photo, only one strobe is on and then the background falls to darkness. The TV's a bit bright, so it's kind of hard to see it, but that's how I get this effect with the background being dark. You see? This is not like actually what the arena looks like, but you can do some artistic stuff, just having the background just fall to darkness. We call it like theater lighting. Here's a better example too. The black and white example. And again, like, not a great sports photo, but just harping back to my example, it's 2 major players. Obviously, Kawhi only played 1 year in Toronto, driving against LeBron. That's kind of stuff that elevates NBA photos, is who's in them sometimes. It's more dark background stuff. You see what I mean? This is a good example, like all this is falling to darkness and just one strobe is illuminating. This is another thing I like to do. So there's one strobe just covering the other side of this court. So the strobe that's closest to me is off, and I've put the camera on the floor, and then I pull out the viewfinder and I just watch it, and I just wait for a shot, and then you get this beautiful reflection. Like if you see this stage I'm standing on, see it's highly reflective. If you put the camera on the floor, you put the lens right on it, you start to see reflections like this. And you can do this without strobes too. You can get reflections in the floor like this, but the strobes really illuminate everything. And here's another example too. This is like LeBron James just bringing the ball up the court. Same idea, camera right on the floor. And this is one I worked on all game. I wanted Steph Curry shooting a 3. And I got super lucky. It worked out perfectly, hit the button at the perfect time. So these are some of my favorite angles to do. Celebration photos are also big in basketball. He just hit a big shot. This is obviously years before the Drake stuff that happened over this past year, but he just hit a big shot, and I just love Drake in the background going, oh man, like, and I think the Lakers won that game. I can't remember though. And celebration shots are always a big part of sports. And then I always try to get the big stars walking out at the end of the game. Just so, again, I'm always thinking about how basketball pictures are. So like 15 years from now, you can be like, oh, that was Giannis walking out of our arena, right? And of course, I'll do it with Scotty as well. And of course, Steph. So these are pictures I think about beforehand, because I'm thinking about, you know, when these guys retire, these photographs will be used. Like, oh, do you remember the time Steph came to Toronto, right? It's just how I think. Yep. Yeah. Oh, so the question is, if there's a lot of photographers who cover games, so does all the photographers get strobes? No. Mainly for basketball and hockey, just that's reserved for league and team photographers only. So it is a privilege to use. Yeah. Sorry.
You can turn on and off various combinations of strobes?
Yeah, so the question is, I can turn on the various combination of strobes. Yes. I can go up, but I can't do it from the floor. I have to go manually hit a button. I can't just turn them off and on from where I'm sitting. It's like a, you know, electrical pack. I go hit on. So I'll plan what I want to do that game, and I'll leave certain ones on and off depending on what I'm trying to do. Next we'll go, pre-game moments. So this is like a lot of what I really love to do. This is kind of my favorite. So before every game, they introduce the players and they do like they do like a big arena show. And this pyro goes off in the net like 4 times per presentation. And last year I've shot so many games that I timed it to the music. So I know, like, they use the same song every intro, so I know exactly when the fire's gonna go off according to the music. These are just little things I like to do. It's like little advantages that you start to pick up. Call it like recognizing patterns. When you start to recognize patterns, you can try and use things to your advantage and prepare. So you'll see, I love, this is my favorite part of the game, is trying to get the opposing team's players as the pyro goes off. The pyro goes off for about 3 seconds and then it stops and it goes dark again. But when the pyro goes off, it illuminates the players in a unique way. So you see like different examples. I always do this before every game. And players stand in different spots while the intros are playing. So I've been doing this forever. The other thing I do is I shoot a lot of prime lenses. So whenever I shoot this, I shoot at prime lenses for 2 reasons. I get more light to the sensor because I shoot at 1.4. And the other reason is when you shoot at 1.4, the background goes really milky smooth. They call it bokeh or bokeh. I don't know how to pronounce it, but just the out of focus part of the image becomes very like gooey. You know, I do every sort different. So every player that comes in, especially the bigger ones, I always try to get this. And then I'll go out and I'll shoot players warming up as well. This is John Morant. He's always good to photograph when he comes to town. I always know he runs through the hallway. Sometimes he doesn't always do it, but after his warm-up, I made sure just to go wait in the hallway and wait for him to run by. Because that's the other thing is like when you have certain knowledge like that, like you recognize patterns or like, you know, oh, sometimes he just runs through the hallway after. You can go, and I'm set up and I'm prepared for this. I'm not I'm not just walking by, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, I'm waiting for it. Like, I'm sitting here for 15, 20 minutes waiting for the player to come through the hallway so I can get some, you know, back of house, behind the scenes images. Same thing with LeBron here. It's the same hallway. LeBron obviously doesn't run, but I'm just waiting for him to walk through the back hallway. Because I know, like, when they go shoot around to warm up, usually they'll watch some tape with the coach on the bench, and then they usually walk in. So I know when they start shooting their free throws at the end of the warm up, okay, I'm gonna go back in the hallway and I'm gonna wait for them to walk by. So I do it, yeah, I try to do it with the bigger players. Sorry, the question was? The question was I using flash for the hallways? No, I use the prime lenses. I shoot about 6400 ISO, wide open at 1.4, it gets enough light. I'm not too big on flashes except for the stadium strokes, but on camera flash, I don't use it. A lot of photographers use it very creatively, but I'm just not, it's not my thing. Nothing wrong with using it, but depends what your creative direction is, I guess. So you can see just lots of pregame moments. You know, you catch a little bit of a spotlight flying around. So that's what I'll do. I'll find a player, I'll autofocus on them. I use auto ISO for this because when the fire goes off, the camera then will decide which ISO to use rather than me trying to flick a shutter speed. Most of the time I'm shooting full manual, but in situations like this I'll use auto ISO because the light changes so drastically. Like, it's completely dark, all of a sudden the spotlight hits their face, then you need a different exposure, so I use auto ISO for this kind of stuff. So you can see, like, just different pregame moments. I love shooting this stuff. I think they tell great stories. It's Wemby. Paul George. Like, I love shooting. This is my favorite part of the game. This was opening night a couple weeks ago. And of course, pregame moments. So LeBron and Bronny came through. So thankful that I believe Bronny might be going to the G League. But I think they said they're going to take him on this trip. But anyways, so that means we got Bronny and LeBron. Again, I'm thinking historically down the line. Like, these are cool pictures now, but imagine later. So I'm just trying to get the two of them. That's all I'm doing during warm-ups. I'm just shooting them. That's all I'm doing. And of course, the other night, everybody remembers it was like a week ago. Vince Carter jersey retirement ceremony. This was a very busy night. So as a photographer, I'm always trying to capture nice emotion. So Vince was plenty emotive that night. He cried a lot, which was cool to see. It was a pretty emotional ceremony. He came out here and he did this. He just started going crazy. It really upped the energy in the whole building right away. It set the tone for how awesome the whole presentation was. And then again, looking through the viewfinder, I'm seeing, like, you know, he's crying, and these are things I'm trying to capture just to display the emotion. So the Raptors did such a good job. They got this huge Vince Carter structure. You'll see how it all came out, but so this is just before. I like this picture a lot. This is just before the banner raising. He's in the chair, and he's framed with his giant sign there. And that's the chair he was sitting in. Just saw it a little tighter. Again, camera on the floor, right? Because the reflection. So you put the lens right on the floor, you get that nice reflection. And then he speaks to the crowd. Then he's done speaking, kind of thanks everybody. And then it's time for the banner raising. So this was a super cool moment. I had set up 3 remote cameras. I'll show you the different angles. So I had mounted this camera up in the crowd to a rail. I'm actually down here. You can kind of see me in the frame. So while I'm shooting the banner going up on my handheld, there's radios firing these 3 cameras that are mounted elsewhere. So I mounted this so I could get a view of the whole arena. You see the banner just right here. And then I put one just on the side. So again, this isn't straight on, it's just from the side. You see me down here. I'm shooting this handheld and it's firing my other cameras. So you see the banner going up there. And then I put one in the roof as well. So again, here I am, I'm down here shooting. And while I'm firing, this camera in the roof is looking straight down at the court, and you get to see, you know, number 15 forever. He's hugging his family here. And then you see it on the scoreboard as well. You see the bigger image of, I left the scoreboard in the frame on purpose. And then of course the banner going up on the right side. And that's when it reached the top. And then of course shooting Vince and his mom. This was a super emotional moment. And it's a pretty beautiful moment. And that's his son there in the red. Yeah, that was the Vince Carter retirement. Sorry, too, if there's any questions, just blurt them out too. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, the question is, am I using the strobe lights for the ceremony? No, because they've lit it beautifully, and I don't want to light it up differently. I also don't want the flash going off in the dark. It ruined the, yeah. The spotlight, yeah, he said this probably didn't need a high shutter speed. No, not really. You still want at least 500th of a second. Oh, so the question is, how many camera lenses are there? I did want to talk about the imagery.
And it's 2,400 watts. Household circuit. I'm plugged into it. Bring in like a warm tone or a tone on the person, whatever. Okay. And let me take another picture of this one. Yeah, absolutely.
How you doing? Good. I've never met you, but I always see your posts. I'm like, hey, I knew you're here. I gotta come say hi. You know? Yeah. So are you good? Okay, no problem, buddy. You're loving the nan lights, eh? Yeah. These lights, so you know which way to go.
Yeah, because he was like, no, somebody from Hollyland, I think. And I was like, then it was somebody using Hollyland. Yeah, it might have been Riley.
specifically going to be about pre-production.
You're walking around a lot.
I want to sort of help outline some tools and tips and tricks that will make things easier for you when you get on your shoot day. And I want to help you sort of unleash your creativity using some of these tricks. There's going to be plenty of behind-the-scenes photos and videos to support our discussions. And we're going to be
Hey, how are you?
You know, some clients will go more on this type of product. You know what? I'm streaming baseball game with my adult baseball league. This will not work. It will not work for me. I take a U-box every time. So this is a better product for what I'm doing. But I would have a podcast studio with 4 people talking like a Joe Rogan type of podcast. Then I would definitely try that. If you are switching pizza, it was pretty cool. We tried this. We've tested the machine. We were all laughing at the same time.
So we're going to go right to the beginning. This is me as a grown. This is me riding my bike in my backyard. And I was totally obsessed with mountain biking and skiing. My family got me into it, and it was just something that changed my life. I didn't realize at the time that this sport, mountain biking, would be the foundation of my filmmaking career. And what would happen is, as we would progress and get better, me and my friends group, they would start to get opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, and opportunities to work with brands to get gear and ride bikes so they didn't have to pay for it. So I would run these companies, not very much. Interested in World War II. And World War II literally changed my life forever. I spent every day to my client. I was so
In these spaces. Yeah.
I thought that was the Lala one. Cameras.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this one he works on our phone cages. It's on a Samsung S23 right now, but on the iPhone 16 it looks even better. It looks really good.
Pronounced newer.
It's newer.
Newer.
Yeah, just newer.
I've heard people say newer.
Yeah.
I've always
I
said
don't know
newer.
why they
Yeah, I've always said newer.
wanted the two E's in there.
Yeah.
They just wanted to torture us for
Yeah.
They're all together. It's so hard to do. The super thin. This is the filter. Super thin, super lightweight. And I'm promising y'all, stop cranking that shutter speed. You want really good cinematic footage? This is the way to do it. It's not cranking your shutter. This video is gonna be so crazy.
That means I'm going to decrease my to get that contrast. That looks pretty good there. And then it added a little bit of clarity to where we get those hard edges.
You want to talk next week? Have a good rest of the week. Have a good weekend.